you really listen. Like, we've been asking for this fix for like months now. You did it. Like, guys, thank you. Like, we spent hours on your platform. You fixed it. Yes. And that was like, like a hell yeah moment for us, because a lot of people were working on this. We did a lot of heavy lifting, and that data really paid off. So
welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Nedelec, and I'm super glad that you're here with us today because I'm here with my most amazing guest, George. George, thank you so much for being here with us today.
thank you, Michelle. It's my pleasure always. So
Awesome.
really happy to see you. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. So give everybody the highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
In a nutshell, I've been doing marketing for about 10 years, over 10 years now. I started in a transnational company, basically as a marketing intern, and fell in love with the craft, not so much with the office culture and all the corporate stuff, though. It was like a hell of a school there, and I think it's just an amazing experience for any young professional to be able to experience that, like established processes, like due diligence, and people who actually are really, really good at what they do, because it really gives you like a sense of ownership place. And being a part of the hustle culture is amazing, and it's really cool when you tackle challenges and figure out stuff on your own. That's great, but it's also, I think, very beneficial to know like how the big players like the sharks in the ocean do it, and just to get acquainted with best practices and what's out there. So anyway, from there, I had a very interesting career, switching from real estate development to IT, and basically coming full circle back to marketing. So right now I'm running my own agency. It's called Quirk Digital. Currently we're operating in 2 countries, and a small announcement since we're here, that basically we'll be probably expanding to Canada soon. So that's good news. That's amazing news for us. And like what I do is basically organic marketing for digital products, for startups, for companies, and we mostly focus on B2B clients. So long story short, that's it.
Very cool. Well, congratulations on your Canadian expansion, and if nothing else, right? And the intention too at this point, and it's all good. So when it comes to serving and supporting, you mentioned B2B operations. So is there any kind of thing in particular that makes B2B different than B2C, that makes them kind of your niche? What makes them most fascinating to you?
Basically it's the challenges, because obviously, when you're communicating with B2B clients or businesses, and like you're pitching your services and you're getting to know them, their needs, their struggles, their challenges, sometimes they are very typical. I mean, like when you get to know the market and when you understand like the tendencies and like what's happening there, but it's also challenging in terms of like demystifying a lot of stuff, because like when you're communicating mostly with C-level executives, they have like their own like basically bird's flight vision of what's happening in ops, and especially in marketing ops, like what needs to be done, how it's operating. Because like a lot of people are very focused on revenue, a lot of people are very focused on growth, scalability, because that's understandable. They're in for the long term, right? And like providing that sort of bridging that vision with ops, with basically bridging the strategy with tactics, is I think what makes this like partnership and like this communication most fascinating to me. Because like when like you start talking and people say, yes, SEO, we need like a faster website, we need to be number 1 on Google, and say, yes, like everybody else in the business. I mean,
right?
and
Who
then,
doesn't?
yeah, who doesn't actually? And then you start like digging into it, explaining, and you understand the processes of the business better, and they understand like the technical side, the basically what's in this, like what's the difference between like organic marketing, search engine marketing, SEO? Those are not synonyms, and like, what is the best fit? What is their audience? What is their customer journey? Are they struggling with lifetime value? Are they struggling with acquisition costs? So what they're doing at what state, like, is it, if it's a startup, for example, is it seed, pre-seed, like, is it funded? And like, when you have that conversation going, you happen across a lot of revelations, and it just lights people up. I mean, in a good way, obviously. That you're sharing information not like in a monologue way, but like they really start to understand how this may blend into their business, and seeing that bridge work, that gap filled. That's what makes me happy at the end of the day.
I love it, because a lot of people talk about monetizing their websites, but when it comes to B2B in particular, when they are also B2B, it tends to make a huge difference on how that happens, depending on the business, depending on the industry. All sorts of fun things can be, if you're the only one in the industry and everybody comes to you, okay, that's one thing. But when somebody's looking for you, and how do they look for you, and how do you reach out to them, that all becomes very pertinent. Is there any business in particular in the B2B world that you like working with, whether it's when they in turn are B2B or they in turn are B2C? Does it matter?
I can't say like that I have a favorite, like I have a customer base, I have my prospects, like, I don't want to get in any trouble right now. But what I can
Well, I know we all love our children equally. But
yeah.
ones that maybe have more fascinating issues. Some of them might be a little more straightforward, and you go, yeah, that's typical, and this is how that goes. But when it comes to this is a little more interesting, and you need to understand more about it. I mean, it can be
I love it
fascinating.
how you put it. I love it how you put it, like the fascinating issues. I mean, like, I think that's what I should use for my kid. Like, you have fascinating issues, So,
Exactly.
if talking about that, I'd say I really enjoyed working with telco companies, because it's a very basically it's a small world. It's an amazingly small world. And like, when you say that, for example, in home improvement sales, everybody knows everyone. So they're, it's basically like a huge village. So like, telcos are even smaller than that, in terms of that, like, people know precisely who you're talking about, what event you're talking about, what company. So like, they're very, very, like, the basically the feedback loops are very, very quick, very short, and the information is like traveling lightning fast across that industry. And also, it's very niche, obviously. So if you're talking about B2B, so you don't have a huge market, you don't have like a lot of new players, or like a huge influx of newcomers in it. And that makes, for any kind of companies or startups working there, even more challenging to like earn their place. And basically, because they don't really have that option to fight for the blue ocean, like, okay, there's plenty of fish in the sea, we'll get a good go-to-marketing, and yeah, we'll get someone. No. That's not how it works. And that's when you face with this kind of challenge, you have to get really creative, because like, you really have to think, instead of no offense, man, but like a PPC or like an advertising person, like, okay, I gotta pour a lot of cold traffic here, somebody will convert, no, we'll do it. So you have to think about the value, and like, basically that becomes like your daily mantra. And I think working with telco companies really helped me make that like mental shift, instead practicing what I preach, basically. So instead of saying that yes, we all need to generate value for your website visitors, for the readers, but when I was basically in a situation when I had no other options as a marketer, then it really pushed my boundaries, and I think it was an amazing experience, and I am looking forward to repeating that again.
Nice. I love it. Well, and there is a lot to be said about the dynamics of a website. It seems, fairly straightforward until you realize that you have clients that are potentially, 20 years old, and or not 20 years old in age, but they've had contracts with the company for 20 years now. Some of them are new to the company and want to know what's going on there. And how do you get them and everybody in between them the information that they're looking for quickly, precisely, in a way that makes sense to them. Because especially with telco companies, I find that somebody that's had a contract with them for 20 years, probably not that apt at the whole online presence thing. They're probably not looking at it on a mobile. And if they are, they want it super simple. and then you get the millennials and like, I just want this thing now, but done, and off we go.
Yeah, well, it is challenging in terms of really clusterizing those intents and understanding the needs. And in here, well, I mean, like if we're talking, for example, like a huge SaaS product, right? What's, I mean, irreplaceable in this case, and with what may be overlooked, are internal analytics and usage statistics. So basically, I mean, it's really cool when you're like treating your website as a go-to place where people Google for stuff or look for stuff. But like if you're talking about your clients, people you've already onboarded, they're a little bit past that, no? So they have like their own portal, like those fancy support stuff and all that. So they dwell in a whole different space. And I think it's actually a red flag when your customer of 20 years is trying to Google something on your website. It's like, I mean, guys, you're definitely missing something here. So that's the case where like you really have to get in. Well, I really have to get in with the product teams, with the engineers, to get an understanding of like what the system is measuring, like what the system is tracking, what it's not tracking, what like kinds of feedback we can utilize, what we have, what we don't, and how it's stored, how it's structured. Typically it's not, all that, all those things. So to be honest, like age groups and different approaches, visual persons or like more data people, those are in the mix. But like typically in these cases, like the main things I look for in a project are like analytics and data for internal usage. So what's happening there? Like I've had some cases, not actually with telco companies, but I've had some cases where that data was like piled basically for, well, I can't say for years because like the project was not that old, but it's been piled for some time. And the pile was very substantial. So and basically it was really undervalued because the team, well, it was, like it was just too much of a burden to take on anyone, and nobody believed in, like, so there probably was some value in it, but it was like a concept, it was not proven. But the things we actually dug out of there were amazing. So basically they did wonders for the product roadmap in short term, and that was one of the cases where I was very happy that this approach really paid off for the engineering teams, for the IT projects. So everyone were really happy because I got calls from the client management teams, like, guys are actually emailing us like, you really listen, like we've been asking for this fix for like months now, you did it, like, guys, thank you, like we spent hours on your platform, you fixed it, yes. And that was like, like like a hell yeah moment for us, because a lot of people were working on this, we did a lot of heavy lifting, and that data really paid off. So sorry for rambling.
No, not at all. It's awesome. And I think there are I know there are different levels of business as well. And as soon as you get into companies that have the data, how important it is to be able to, one, save the data in a way that's as clean as possible. So even if you're not using it, that the day somebody does go back to look at it, they can assess what they need to from that, and to be able to move forward and make projections and plans based on the data. I think, as to your point, a lot of people, if they don't have the wherewithal or the capacity to be able to understand how to analyze the data, they overlook it and dismiss it. And it can, one, save you tens of thousands, if not more, and it can make you potentially millions.
Yeah, and like again, coming back to startups, there's always like the actually controversial case of analysis paralysis. Sometimes like you come across founders who are like have 1,000 spreadsheets, like hundreds of dashboards. I'm like, guys, like, how many monitors do you like? Do you have like this room full of, TV screens where you have actually all that in real time? I mean, why do you need so much data? That's also like a good conversation point in terms of like processes and how people work with information they have, because like if you're measuring too much, you probably know too little, because like you don't understand it, like you cannot put it down. Typically it's like 5 to maybe 10 metrics you need to really have under your toes right now, and like where there's like this vast amount, like thousands of keywords, all competitors, everything. So you look at that and you see like, okay, I think we're missing the goal here. So we're gonna work a bit on alignment first, and then on specific tactics, to tackle it. But yeah, in general, like working with your data is, making money. You don't, you lose it. That's all.
And I know somebody's going to be asking, what are those 10 key points? What do I need to know? And I know what my answer is to that, but let's go with what your answer is for that.
Well, for a very high level, high level dashboard, for like executive level, so to say, obviously, like it depends on your product structure and what you're measuring. So if we're talking about like a generic website that you're launching, maybe like you want just to get some traction, get some subscribers, so maybe you don't really have a product at the moment. So obviously, like if you're not familiar for some reason with Google Analytics and what basic digital marketing tracking metrics, so obviously you need to know how many users you have. Ideally, you need to know how many unique users you have. You don't typically need the amount of sessions or like the dwell time at, if it's an early stage product, because that's just gonna throw you off track at this moment. What you really need to look in are your bounce rates, and in here I would actually elaborate a little bit, because bounce rate is not just like a wonderful number that we see like for a website, it's blended, but how it's blended, like basically what values come into it and like what are you analyzing. So for example, if you have like an area of landing pages which are linked to advertising campaigns, if you have a bunch of organic content, if you have some lead gen forms, like you have, I don't know, your like case studies or something else, you cannot basically take the bounce rate of all those pages divided by the number of pages and say this is my website bounce rate. No, that's absolutely incorrect. So if you have different sections of your, it's, let's say, digital assets, so that would probably be a better term for it, so measure them separately. So instead of like a blended bounce rate, see your landing pages separately, see your organic content separately, and see everything else separately. So like try to be segmented in this extent a little bit. I mean, for those people who know about Google Analytics, but also they know about Google Search Console, like amazing. So this is like a wonderful situation to be in, and obviously here you would need to see the amount of queries and the amount of index pages you have, the amount of impressions and your clicks. Again, like if you're just starting to rank, you're starting out there, or if you've been out there for some time but you did not focus on organic, so basically you most probably don't really have a lot of results in terms of like good indexing, good positioning, so you're just out there in general. So unfortunately SEO and organic content does not work like that. So you need to work towards a goal. You need to aim into something to get to something, so just posting, it doesn't work. So you need to have a strategy, and at this point you probably need to look at like high level numbers, like your impressions, your clicks, just to maintain the growth, to see like, okay, we're either when we're on a plane, but we're not decreasing, or if you're decreasing, why, what, have a breakdown. And when you do, obviously remember to filter them, because like you will have the information for all the markets you are displayed on, and probably you have a target market like US, Australia, Canada, whatever. So be sure to look at the data that's relevant for your market, and again, not blend the data for all markets, because that again just throw your game off a lot. So that would be in a nutshell, you know, improvising here.
All good. So give us an example of a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Well, unfortunately, I already wasted that story like, on the product roadmap growth, but it honestly it was not connected to organic marketing per se. So okay, like we can skip that, I guess. Well, in telco space, I had a success story that basically within like the company fairly new, and again, as I said, like it's a very competitive niche. It's not a huge market, and it's only B2B. So basically, like your brand awareness levels, your brand recognition, your organic is your everything. So because like those like people are targeted with a lot of ads, so like it's incredibly competitive, and like unless you really focus on the value and on your proposition, and you're very well timed when you do it, you'll probably miss that goal. So in terms of metrics, we were able to achieve about like a 30% organic growth in impressions and clicks within 1 quarter, which I think is not too shabby for you know such you know, for such circumstances. And again, like here, the importance of data, because that's like your impressions and clicks, but does that actually translate into organic traffic? And the organic traffic growth measured with the Google Analytics was at around 20%. So basically, we're not just, you know, driving impressions. So we were not just showing up more on search engines. People were actually going to those links, that were using them, staying there, which obviously increased the authority of the domain. So in that was like why it's a Cinderella story, why it was a pleasant surprise for me, because we actually managed to achieve growth relatively fast, which is not very common for organic or SEO projects. And the growth was pretty substantial, but I mean, obviously, when you come to a project where not a lot was done before, typically it is like that for your, you know, like first several quarters. And like the final aspect of it was the growth in organic lead generation and Forbes submissions. So those were growing as well. I cannot like give a precise number, because like it's kind of hard to compare them to previous periods. But like it was very successful. Basically, all the calendars were like for the key events, you know, like the bread and butter of any B2B SaaS company, were overbooked for the whole team for like a year ahead. So that, I think that was a win.
That's awesome. I love it. So what are some of the stumbling blocks that a CEO might be having as they're listening to this, thinking, oh, George, I need you guys so bad?
Well, I mean, like
What's
general
going wrong in their
recommendations
business
or
right now?
wrong?
Yeah.
Well, I think like the AI is the buzzword at the moment, like generative AI, and like people are saying like, okay, probably we might not need content creators, we might not need content optimization, we might not need people at all. Like I have, you know, Chat GPT or whatnot to do all that for me. And my typical comeback to that is like, okay, you have like a set of like 10 core keywords, right? And you have at least 5 direct competitors who have the exact set of those exact keywords. You all will be entering those keywords in a system that generates content in an algorithmic way, more or less, you know, similarly using the same patterns. So how much value would like the 10 of you generate all together using the same keywords within the same system? So if you're missing the vision, the human touch, so that's basically probably one of the aspects that currently is still missing from all those like AI tools that get a lot of press coverage, is the creativity and the ability to solve problems. They're very good, obviously, at doing repetitive tasks, at anything you can quantify, at anything you can put in as an algorithm, but you know, like as that ongoing joke, like, guys, we're safe because people need to actually say what they want. So AI is not going to take our jobs. So that is exactly what's happening. Because like it's not just enough to spit out a prompt, like write me a marketing plan, write me a content plan. You need to be not only specific in what you're doing, but why you're doing it, for whom, what types of content, is it clusterized in some way, do you have any specific needs? And to know that, like, to some extent, like, advanced users may know that you can actually reverse engineer this and ask AI tools like, what am I missing? Like, critique this, so you can get that information if you're not a professional. But ideally, having a professional on your team, regardless if it's like a developer, a designer, a content marketer, or like a media buyer, that guarantees that you already have all that expertise on board. And also, it guarantees the expertise of solving non-conventional issues that you may not, that the AI may simply miss. I think there were some recent researches in like the quality of the code AI generates, because like that's one of the best things. Like those algorithms are best at generating code. Obviously, computers are good talking with computers. I mean, that makes sense. But like as far as I remember, I think only 60 or 65% of the code generated from first time from a prompt was actually working and was of decent quality that can be compared to a developer. So, what I'm trying to say, still a long way to go. And you just don't need a human touch. You need a vision. If you're missing a vision, AI is not going to help you. Nobody is going to help you. If you're a business owner, you need to know not just, what you're doing, but why you're doing it and where you want to go. I mean, there's a very good quote I like that, I think it's attributed to Robert Bosch, but, you cannot trust the internet with those things. But it said that basically, I don't hire professionals to tell them what to do. So, and I really like this approach. So I think that's what needs to happen in most companies when, organic marketing or not.
I love it. So I know our listeners are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Easy. I hope you leave some of my links under your video, under your podcast, and mostly I connect with people via LinkedIn, because, like, that's my bread and butter. We don't really focus on getting a lot of leads on our websites, because like our client acquisition is mostly word of mouth, and we're really happy with it because, again, like, organic.
I love it. So of course we will have all of George's links in the show notes. So go ahead and scroll down, open up those links, and open up them up in the new browser, because we're not done yet. So George, at what point in life did you know you were a special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
That is an amazing question, really. Thank you. Actually, yes, that was a very specific point in life, because I was doing fairly well as an employee, and as one of my business partners says, like having like those cushy corporate jobs, with insurance and all of that. Why would you trade that, for handling your own accounting, your insurance, everything? And yes, that was like, there was a pivotal moment. I met a girl. We're happily married. We have a kid. And at one point in our relationship, we understood that we are spending 3 to 6 hours daily in a commute. And I mean, it's cool because, like, we earn, we have a lot of possibilities, the world is open to us. But like, we had a simple, for example, we had a simple thing. We wanted a dog, and we were thinking like, okay, we get a dog, and who is actually going to look at that dog to to see it grow up or do anything? And you cannot leave a puppy for like 6 hours or like 12. I mean, like, who does that? Obviously, bring your animals to the office was not a thing yet at the moment. But yeah, like, we started thinking, how are we going to make this work? How are we going to generate value for ourselves? And we decided that we are going to take, basically, it was a huge step back in our careers, because we basically had to unlearn everything we knew as corporate employees. My then girlfriend, now wife, she just got her PhD, so the future was looking very bright for her, and we stuck to that commitment right now. So sometimes we still look back and we say we did good. It's not easy, but we did good, because we've seen the first steps of our baby. We have a lot of pleasant and not so much conversations with her, still a bit gibberish, but she's not happy with us most of the time, but we get that feedback. And I think that's, you cannot buy it, you cannot trade that, you cannot have it any other way. So a bet well played.
I love it. You have been absolutely awesome. Thank you. Any last words for our peeps?
That sounded, any last words?
Sound very final. Not that final.
Actually, I'm always trying to keep it real, as Will Smith used to say, and to be down to earth with my clients. And I hate to sound like an expert or a know-it-all, because nobody likes those people, really. I don't care what you say, nobody likes them, bottom of our hearts. So always, if I have something to say and people are willing to listen, it's just stay human. Stay human in what you do, stay human in your approach, stay human in your business. Think about people, and that will always pay back. It will always pay back in generating amazing value for your clients, who will bring in more clients. It will pay back in advocacy and brand awareness, and in working and enjoying your life and your work, because you're surrounded by amazing people who love you and what you do, because you do it for them.
I love it. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
Same. Thank you. Have a good one.
Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelec. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well, if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.